Who are the best characters in Marvel's Midnight Suns? Today we discuss who's the best and why. Hello and welcome back to the channel. LC here, your guide to all things RPG related, and today we answer the question, who's at the top of the totem pole when it comes to characters in this newly released title? Before we get started, let me go over some general metrics. So thus far, I've logged about 90 hours in game total, including 2 separate playthroughs of the title. All the views and thoughts that I have regarding the characters in this game are going to be based off the standard difficulty. That's about like 90% of players are going to run through that. And in the future, I'll put together a list of where I think some of the characters stack up in some of the harder difficulties, heroic and ultimate modes, because the meta is completely upended. Like some things that matter in normal difficulty just flat out don't matter. Also, before we begin, let's all remember the golden rule.
Well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
As usual, I invite everyone to let me know your thoughts on who you think the best characters are down in the comments and who you consider to be the sleeper top tier. I really want to know who you guys think that we're sleeping on as a community. And also while you're down there, make sure you subscribe for future guides on Midnight Suns, including our upcoming hero tier list that'll be dropping next week. Okay, let's kick this thing off with a bang. Let's talk about the magic show.
Get her out of here.
Probably the most narratively well-developed character in the entire game. I always thought that Magic was a pretty cool character in the comics, and while her depiction in the disastrous New Mutants movie was kinda sus, at least we got to see Anya Taylor-Joy. Like they say, can't win them all. So upon actually grabbing this game, the two characters I was most invested in seeing how they were going to play was Magic and Scarlet Witch. I wanted to see, how they were going to translate their moveset into this gameplay engine, and I was not disappointed. With Magic, initially when I first started playing her, I was slightly underwhelmed as a lot of her early cards and upgraded versions, they seemed kind of situational. However, once you begin to learn the properties of the environments within each stage, her potential quickly blossoms into a very powerful character. Her ability to conjure portals to any location on the map for free with Limbo Portal allows her a risk-free setup that other characters sorely lack. Tie this with the absolutely incredible Limbo's Grasp card, which allows her to deal additional 157 damage to any enemy that goes through the portal through the remainder of the match, and you can see how she earned the title of Queen of Limbo. She also has the best defensive gambit in this entire game with her ultimate Darkchild, which grants invincibility to her for 1 round while taunting all enemies. So essentially it is the game's best panic button. If someone is about to die, especially on the harder difficulties, and you do Darkchild, you can at least stall for 1 turn. Also, if it's upgraded to Darkchild Plus, which is kind of expensive, she gets a counter for that single turn as well, so she can actually clear out the mobs. I think it's completely busted. I think Darkchild is probably top 2, top 3 ultimates in the game. Extremely powerful. She does also have some pretty competent offensive abilities with Kick when it's upgraded, as well as Gather. They're particularly strong, in certain scenarios once they're upgraded. I like Gather for crowd control. In closing, I think as one of the game's 2 entirely environmental focused characters, her and Peter Parker, I think that she edges him out on multiple fronts, especially when it comes to her ultimate. I think she just edges him out. I gotta do more experimentation with Spider-Man, but definitely for now, I think Magic is absolutely sick. Long reign, the Queen. And sliding in next, we have what is likely the best support character in the entire game, the Sorcerer Supreme, Dr. Stephen Strange. Now, Doctor Strange's depiction in mainstream media and even other games have always been a bit on the hit or miss side for me. Sometimes he really feels true to character, but other times, especially in games, they'll create like weird, eccentric toolkits and playstyles that revolve around some type of abstract mechanic, and that just always makes me bench him. Well, I'm happy to report that in this game, it is quite the opposite. While his playstyle does leave a decent amount open for like player expression and creativity, with your deck builds, his strengths are extremely apparent and palpable from the first match you play him with. Just even his standard cards, you can see this guy is going to be a menace. His design as a hybrid support damage dealer hero allows Strange to kind of always have the right answer if your deck is built properly. His ability to juice up allies with Blessing of Ashanti, adding additional damage to all hero cards in your hand is quite possible one of the best ways to start any round, and I started kind of getting hyped anytime I would start off a match with that card in my hand. His other support cards include being able to bind opponents with Crimson Band to Sidorak, and also one of the best healing cards in the game with Shield of Seraphim, which also grants resist to all allies. That's kind of OD, even if the heroism cost is a bit on the higher side, and Doctor Strange also is no slouch on the offensive side of the house. His axe attack can be very damaging, is very good at like closing out kind of tanky characters, and his ultimate can be very strong as well when fully upgraded. So long story short, when it comes to Doctor Strange, his utility on any team is absolutely invaluable, and his versatility as a support character is almost peerless. The good doctor is in. And moving on, we have the one, the only, the futurist himself, Mr. Tony Stark.
I'm the best.
Probably everyone's favorite character in the MCU, and one of the main reasons for his astronomical success. I think, like Doctor Strange, at times his translation into the world of video games was never quite as cool as it could be. I mean, this man is a genius. Give this man an arsenal of cool weapons and attacks that we can use against our opponents out there. And while this game is definitely a step in the right direction in terms of his representation, battle-wise and stuff like that, I've got to say that his playstyle perfectly encapsulates who he is as a person. It's all about Tony, all the time. And it's just translated perfectly within the nature of his cards and deck compositions. I, for one, absolutely love it. Iron Man is kind of a cracked out jack of all trades that specializes in support and mob control. I think he's right after Strange as one of the game's most offensive powerhouses like support wise. Cards like Heads Up, which provide block to an ally, is a good way to start off any battle and is kind of never a bad option, and the incredible Marked Target, which applies marked and vulnerable to single targets or multiple targets if it has been upgraded, or quickly KO troublesome characters that, characters that duplicate or reinforcements or anything like that, or if you're just trying to get a boss character off the field, he is invaluable for stuff like that. And then moving on to two of my favorite cards of his is Surgical Strike and Air Superiority. Surgical Strike allows you to chain targets for damage based on how many Iron Man cards you have in your hand, with the grand total being 4. This is invaluable when dealing with the mobs or reinforcements and stuff like that, or if you just need to crush one extremely powerful character, you can do all 4 blasts on him. He doesn't really have to pick, you know what I mean? He always has the right answer. Then we have the absolutely insane Air Superiority, which can be redrawn to perform a total of 229 damage to every combatant on the field. The amount of times that this single attack has bailed me out when playing against some of the higher difficulties is innumerable. It is such a great attack. And while I would agree that, his heroism cost is a bit high, it comes in at 4, I think that his screen control is completely unparalleled. The only main drawback with Tony is the selfish nature of him within team compositions. In order to get the max utility out of some of his cards, you have to use up your redraws to make them more powerful, and this can definitely be a bit dicey depending on the situation at hand. But once he gets rolling, I think he's one of the best momentum characters in this entire game. Oh yeah, he randomly also has a card that doubles your heroism. What can I say? This guy just has it all. Versatility, support, damage, he is that guy. Okay, now I'm going to skirt the rules just a bit when it comes to our next duo of characters, the Captains, Marvel and America. I really wanted to keep this list at 5 max, but the more I play these characters, the harder it was for me to justify leaving either one of them off the list. Both excel at being exceptional tanks that can soak up a metric ton of damage and also provide competent damage across their movesets. So let's take a closer look, starting with Captain Marvel. The more aggressive of the pair, with great options when it comes to dealing damage as well as drawing the enemy's attention with taunts when necessary. He probably is in contention for top 3 most physically powerful character in the game, tied with Ghost Rider and probably a rage-induced Hulk, and a properly outfitted Hunter might be up there as well. However, the thing that separates her is her ability to gain massive amount of blocks with her skill cards that can almost at times make her virtually unkillable. There's been situations where it's like her 1v6 versus a boss character and other characters on the field, and she still won. And this is amplified even further with things like Go Binary, which allows her to double her damage output until she runs out of block gauge. And then when you pair that with something like Rain of Blows and Supernova, this can absolutely make her a very strong offensive menace on the field, and she's almost entirely self-sustainable. And on the other side of the coin, we have the man out of time, Steve Rogers. He's almost a polar opposite from his peer, in that a lot of his more powerful skill cards, such as Tactician Plus, also provide block to his allies, and an absurdly powerful Dig In, which is probably one of the game's best defensive options and ranks very, very high on the clutch meter. It does also come with a handful of decent offensive options as well, when it's time to strike back. Things like Ultimate Shield Charge as well as Shield Throw are very powerful options to close out enemy ranks and taunt and stuff like that. It also does come with a handful of pretty decent offensive options, with things like Ultimate Shield Charge and Shield Throw being very powerful options to close out enemy ranks. No lie, when I have Captain America on my team, I actually feel a sense of calm at times due to his ability to protect allies and always having an absurd amount of block on the field. I rarely have any situations where characters are dying when he's on the squad. A valuable asset through and through. And to close us out, we have the one, the only, the Hunter or Huntress if you prefer that. Of course, being our main character, they are more than a bit spoiled on pretty much all fronts. Right out the gate, they get 2 passives to work with, which can definitely help you gain advantages and turn their tables in very tricky intervals on the battlefield. Even their base passive, Fully Charged, is really good at allowing you to get one resist or, gain one heroism at the start of the turn. I pretty much left that on for my entire first playthrough. It's almost unparalleled. And now while the color passives I think are a bit more meticulous and they're kind of more situational, I think that the utility is good to have there nonetheless. Being a character that's designed around either the light or dark side of the force, his affinity will be directly affected upon the cards that you play in battle. That being said, on my first playthrough, I opted for more of a hybrid approach with kind of a healer and a single target DPS that focus on big damage on just trying to get opponents off the field. Any really troublesome opponents, that's who I would let him KO. The Hunter having access to more than double the amount of cards than the rest of the roster, it allows you to pretty much craft your deck into whatever you want it to be. The Hunter is a king of versatility. You have the answer for almost every scenario. Granted, you get good RNG with some of your card pulls. He can be a skill-based support character, cranking up the heroism gauge and healing when necessary, or a Saboteur, providing things like Berserk to enemies out on the field, or an absolutely offensive monster, using high damaging attacks to clear off some problematic opponents off the field. He is pretty much a blank slate. You can do whatever you want with them. The only limitation when it comes to this character really is your own imagination. He can be molded into anything that you want out there on the battlefield. In the future, I'll be examining some specific builds for both light and dark combos with the Hunter. This is what I'm currently running right now, but I was doing some kind of late game missions. So let me know what you think about Hunter and how he's best utilized down in the comments below. And that'll do it for what I consider to be the best characters in Marvel's Midnight Suns. Granted, the game has only been out for a week. There are bound to be a bit more engaging combos as the meta evolves, as some truly broken combinations are released. After all, this is a team game, and synergy will always trump one individual character's power or toolkit. And until next time, LC signing out. Peace.